Hi, under this chapter, Democracy in the Contemporary World, we had studied about the transition of democracy from the autocratic rule by taking the example of two countries, that is Chile and Poland, and then we had studied about the different phases in the expansion of the democracy. We had seen that in many of the nations, earlier democracy was not established, but when people raised their voice or when people found the need of certain rights to express their ideas and opinions, they wanted that they wanted that there should be some kind of a government which could give them all the rights they aspire to live a life of dignity and respect. Then right now we will study under this chapter this topic, democracy at the global level. So when we use the term democracy, the first thing that comes to our mind is the right to vote, the certain right to vote, not only right to vote but certain basic rights enjoyed by the individuals. So only that country can be termed as democracy where people have certain basic rights. Mainly the people have the right to vote, that is the people should participate in the decision making process of the government, and people can express their opinions freely through the certain rights granted to them. And not only certain rights should be granted to them, these rights should be safeguarded from the arbitrary action of the government and the individuals, institutions and other groups. So when we talk of different nations, we say that there should be some kind of cooperation among the nations so that these democratic values should be preserved by these nations. So in order to maintain peace and security, in order to maintain friendly relations among two nations, there should be some agency which can do this task. So after Second World War, this kind of a need was raised that there should be some kind of a agency which can resolve dispute, which can resolve conflict between the two nations, so that such kind of a situation does not arise again, so that no Third World War should occur. So here comes the formation of the UN. So though there are many institutions in the world which perform the function of the world government, but the main organ or the main institution is the UN. UN, we can say, is the confederation of different nations which have come together so that peace can be maintained in the world. All the democracies can remain democratically, all the democracies can remain democracy only, so that no other country can invade them or can invade their sovereignty. So UN is the group or the organization of different nations to help cooperation in first international law, that is UN is there not to dictate any country to do certain kind of things, but it can only underline certain rules which every country has to follow in order to maintain peace and security in the world. It is being done by drafting international law, the provisions of which should be followed by each and every country. Then security, then economic development. Cooperation should be there in terms of security, economic development and social equity. security, cooperation should be in terms of security, that is every country should strive to make another country secure from any kind of invasion, and if it happens, the other countries should cooperate to thwart any kind of danger to its neighbors. Economic development, that is all the countries should strive to, all the developed countries should strive to make the underdeveloped and developing countries the developed country. Social equity, that is there shouldn't be, all the countries should strive to remove social discrimination in the world. So this is why the UN came into being. Then not only this UN, but the UN has many organs through which it propagates peace and security in the world. One of the organ is UN Security Council, which is responsible for maintaining peace and security in the world. In case of any kind of conflict between the two nations, it is the Security Council which tries to take action against the country which is trying to perpetuate colonialism or which is trying to invade the other country. This Security Council, it have got its own army, and with the help of this international army, it takes action against the wrongdoer. So, through one of its main organ is Security Council. Second is IMF, International Monetary Fund. International Monetary Fund. As the name indicates, it is related to the financial aspect. So, this International Monetary Fund give loans to the country which are in need of money for their developmental projects or for any kind of natural calamity which they are facing. So this International Monetary Fund is always there to give them loan, but before International Monetary Fund give them loan, it checks the account of that particular country, and it asks that country to change its economic policy according to them. Now, though there are many global institutions, we can say, which are trying to maintain certain kind of homogeneity among the nations, but the next question arises is, but are the decisions taken by these world institutions democratic? Whenever we talk of any nation as democratic, we say that there should be consensus in decision making process. But are these international organizations really democratic? Is there consensus among the nations in certain decision making process, or we will see that is certain powerful countries trying to dominate these international organizations, or does every country, irrespective of its status as developing, developed or underdeveloped countries, enjoys the same status in these international organizations? So, the next question is, are these decisions democratic? So, every country, we have seen that every country is the member of UN, and it has got one vote in the UN General Assembly. The UN General Assembly is like a world parliament which meets once in a year, and it has representatives, it have elected representatives from almost all the countries. So, if we look into the constitution of the General Assembly, we will see that the General Assembly appears to be very democratic. But this General Assembly does not have any right to take decisions where the two countries come into conflict with each other. That is, if on any issues, two nations, suppose like India or Pakistan, if on any issue they are in dispute, they are in conflict with each other, then this General Assembly cannot take the decision. Then at that time, there is the Security Council which takes all the decision. So, it is the 15 members, it consists of 15 members. Among these 15 members, 5 members are permanent. 5 members are permanent, whereas 10 members retire after every 2 years. So, it is these 5 permanent members. And now who are these 5 permanent members? Naturally, USA, Russia, UK, France, and China. So, these are the 5 permanent members of the Security Council. All these 5 permanent members, they enjoy dominance in the Security Council. All these 5 permanent members have got veto power. Veto power means if any of the nation does not agree to any of the decision taken by the Security Council, and if it rejects that particular proposal by a veto power, then that proposal will not be then that proposal would be withdrawn. So it won't go into floors. So that is it. So in terms of the dominance, these 5 nations enjoy veto power. So because of this kind of a dominance, the rest of the nations feel that it is not a democratic body, and that every nation should have the right to participate in such kind of a process, or every nation should have such kind of a power which is being enjoyed by these 5 permanent members. Then in case of international, the next agency which we have studied of the UN is International Monetary Fund. Here also we will see that the US enjoys dominance. So International Monetary Fund, as we know, it is one of the biggest money lenders of the world. It gives loans to the country, and its 185 member states, they do not enjoy voting rights. So, though there are 185 member states in the International Monetary Fund, but its 185 member states do not have equal voting rights. The vote of each country, it is weighed on the amount of money which is being contributed by it to the IMF. Each country have to contribute certain sum of money to the IMF. So the weightage of these voting rights is being given according to the money contributed by each country. So now here in IMF, most of the money is being contributed by the US. So who will enjoy more powers in International Monetary Fund? Naturally, US will enjoy more powers. So, or not only US, there are mainly major contribution is through US, but there are other 9 countries also who have contributed heavy funds to the IMF. So all these countries enjoy enormous powers in IMF, and the president of the IMF by convention or through custom is always a citizen of the US. He is always a US citizen. So here also the democracy or the democratic values are neglected. Now, if we see that most of these global institutions does not pass the test of the democracy which we use in the national government. If global institutions, they are not democratic, then are they trying to become democratic? Here also we see that most of the global institutions, instead of becoming democratic, they are becoming less democratic. How they are becoming less democratic? Before the collapse of the USSR, at least there were two nations, two powerful nations, that was US and USSR. But after Cold World War, that is after the disintegration of the USSR, the major power is being enjoyed by the US. So before that there were two countries, they had their own allies, So some kind of a equilibrium among the nations was maintained. But after the disintegration of USSR, mainly the hegemony of US is maintained. So there is the dominance of America, there is a dominance of US in the working of the international organizations, in most of these organizations. Now, the next question which arises is, how could we promote democracy? What steps should we take to promote democracy or democracy promotion? According to the dominant power of the world, that is US, it says that it is the duty of the democratically elected nations to propagate or to intervene in those countries which are non-democratic, and in case they don't resort to democracy, then all kind of harsh measures, even if it is armed attack on it, should be taken. Now, is this the right procedure? Is this the way the democracy could be maintained? Yes, your answer would be no. This is not the way the democracy could be brought in any non-democratic country. Armed rebellion is naturally against rebellion is the violation of human rights, and if there is violation of human rights, then democracy is a false thing. So this is what was done by US in Iraq. So here we will study the case of the Iraq, it became the invasion of the Iraq by the US, and the history of the Iraq became independent. It became independent in 1932. So in 1968, a coup led by Saddam Hussein brought his party to power. Which was his party? Arab Socialist Baath Party. So Iraq, it became independent in 1932. So 3 decades later, there were series of coups by military officers. Since 1968, Baath Party, that is the Arab Socialist Baath Party, gained majority over there, and this was brought by the coup whose leader was Saddam Hussein. So he opposed all kind of traditional Islamic laws and gave the women the right to vote. But later on, he became quite autocratic. He didn't wanted to get down from from the seat which he has obtained through treason. So after becoming the president of Iraq, Saddam ran a dictatorial government and suppressed all kind of opposition which was meted out to him in the most rigorous way. And he sent all those people to prison who were opposed to them. So this is where this is where the US felt that it should intervene. So in taking the plea that the Iraq is having lot of nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction, US in 2005 launched attack on Iraq. And after so many of raids, though no nuclear weapons were found, so the invasion of US by Iraq killed many people, killed many innocent people in the process. So this kind of restoration of democracy which US was trying to bring about in Iraq cannot be termed as right. It was against the violation of human rights because so many people were killed in the process, so many people were tortured, so many people lost their right to livelihood, they lost their homes, they lost their sources of livelihood, which was not at all right. So what we can conclude here is, if a nation is not a democratic nation and it wants to become a democratic nation, then it should follow the right path towards a democracy. People should protest against the autocratic rule. They should try to raise their voice and demand their rights. Right now we have right now we had seen that when US invaded Iraq, it was not a right, it was not in the right direction. It was not in the right direction of our democratic values. So let us now have a quick summary of what we had studied till now. Under this chapter, that is democracy in the contemporary world, under this chapter we had studied about the stories of the two countries, that is Chile and Poland. We had seen that some of the countries in the past, they were democracies, they were democratically elected countries, and then dictatorship came to those countries, but through people's voice, again they restored their democracy. And though some of them have till now maintained their democracy, but still some countries have not maintained their democracy and they are still under autocratic rule. And with the help of these two stories, that is Chile and Poland, we had concluded two features of the democracy. First, we have concluded one definition, that is democracy is the form of government that allows people to choose their representative. So in a democracy, then those two features were, in a democracy only leaders elected by the people should rule, and second is people should enjoy certain freedom in the democracy. Then we had studied the changing map of the democracy. We have studied the expansion of the democracy through three phases, that is 1900 to 1950, when only few countries were democracy, and most of the countries of Asia and Africa, they were under colonial rule, they were under imperialism. Then the second phase, which started from 1950 to 1975, was the phase when it saw the end of colonialism in most parts of Asia and Africa, where this was the time when most of these countries witnessed national movements for freedom, including India. And it was only after Second World War that these countries became independent. Even after these countries gained independence, only few of them could maintain their independence. Rest again restored to the democratic rule, maybe under a king or maybe under some military journal. Then we have seen the recent phases with the help of so many examples: Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, then Myanmar also. And the next we had studied under this chapter, democracy at the global level, is our international organizations like UN. The main international organization like UN and its agencies really democratic, or they are being ruled by certain powerful countries. Here also we had seen that actually the international organizations are not that much democratic, which appear to be, or which they claim to be. So the need of the hour is first to make these international organizations more democratic, and then the countries which are still under the autocratic rule, all the countries, they should strive together, they should cooperate together to put pressure on these countries to transform themselves into democracy, so that people can live a life of dignity and respect. That's all under this chapter. Thank you.